I waho, kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora ki te katoa, haumi e hui e tai ki e na mihi nui. Thank you, everybody. Straight into it. So any apologies today? There being none, any public forum? Oh, okay, interesting. Late urgent items, any late urgent items? Councillor Morrissey, please.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like a late item put on the agenda for later on. It would be to deal with the appointment of Councillor Grant down the end of the table to the CEO committee. The urgency is that we start the KPI process tomorrow, and I am very impressed with the KPIs he's presented so far to the committee, and he has the knowledge and expertise to be of great assistance to us as a committee through that process.
Thank you, Councillor. Have we got a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. I'll leave it to Ari to figure out when we do that. Any conflicts of interest to declare, please? There being none, we'll go straight to 1.6 items for confirmation. Sorry, minutes for confirmation. Page 3. So we've got minutes for Whangamata Community Board, Thames Community Board, Tairua Pauanui, Coromandel Colville, Mercury Bay. We are looking at the public items only at this stage, and the public excluded items will be later on. And I'd ask councillors to note, bottom of page 3, Thames Community Board recommendations. Council will only be asked to note the Thames Community Board recommendation for 2.1 Thames and sub-regional aquatic provision business case and next steps report. Given the significance of this matter, who's buying the next round? Staff will prepare a separate comprehensive decision-making report to be presented at an upcoming meeting. So the recommendation coming to council is just to note that. So if we go to page 4, oh, sorry, Rika, please.
I did have a question. So did you want me to wait?
I'd like to receive the, so item 1, receive the minutes and then receive the minutes from the community board meetings. And then we'll open that up for questions on the specific board items, if that's all right. So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the minutes. So item 1 and 2. Councillor Rodley, Councillor Grant, all those in favour? Thank you. And we'll open this, items 3 through 7. We'll open these up for discussion. Thank you. Actually, we'll go through them one at a time. So your question was on which item? Resolution 5. Okay. In that case, let's move through one at a time. So we'll go to item 3. I'll get a mover, please, for item 3, Whangamata. Okay. Thank you. Robin and Terry, a seconder, please. Okay. Any discussion on item 3? Being none, all those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Item 4, mover and a seconder, please, for item 4. Robin and Martin, please. Discussion, please, on item 4. Anything? Councillor Morrissey.
Yeah, I have a few concerns about leaving the site prior to another swimming pool. Are we looking? No. Oh, no. Okay. Forget that.
Hold your horses. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder for item 4. Those in favour? Thank you. That's approved. Item 5, Thames Community Board recommendations. And as I said on previous page, we are being asked to note this. Given that we're being asked to note the recommendations, where does it leave us with items A, B, and C? Just read this again. Thanks, Aileen. Yes, thank you.
So at this stage, we're being asked to note those resolutions. The next steps are being worked through by staff, and Glenn is here if we have any specific questions. But then the next step that we're envisaging is a workshop with councillors to have a look through the options before bringing a substantive report through to council. As you can see, these are quite substantive recommendations from the community board, and a report would be needed to make sure that any decision making was compliant.
Thanks, Aileen. Rebecca, please.
Thank you. So, yeah, my comments around resolution 5. When I look at the resolutions here and the resolutions that were in the report at the time of the community board going through their recommendations, recommendation 3 from the report wasn't even discussed, and so that's the recommendation around whether council recommends to council that it does or does not commit all of the Thames Urban General Purpose Reserve funding to the Thames Aquatic Project. That was not even discussed on the day, and that resolution just sort of fell by the wayside, and I'm really trying to would like to understand why.
I think from memory it was on the agenda and then it was taken.
Yeah, it was on the agenda, but when they went through the resolutions, they never discussed that resolution.
I can answer that. We had a discussion, I had a discussion with the chair and the deputy chair prior, because I had a concern as to why we were just proposing one funding mechanism when actually all we needed was the will. The way is to come later. And so it was felt that that was an inappropriate level of detail to be going into when all we needed was a decision about what our preference was. So because we weren't talking about any other funding options, we weren't talking about any other funding streams. And so it was.
So my recollection from the conversation was that many of the councillors and the board chair in that conversation had conversations around funding and hoping that the district would pay for the pool facility. So I just think that it's a bit strange that prior to a meeting, an entire recommendation around funding be removed and it not be addressed in a meeting.
Are you talking about discussions during the Thames Community Board meeting?
Yes.
Around funding options?
Well, the option was part of the recommendations in the report. That wasn't addressed or discussed. So on Councillor Sinclair saying that she asked for that to be removed before the meeting.
I didn't ask for it to be removed. It was removed by the chair.
Right. Does that not seem a bit strange to everyone?
It makes sense to me that the item, because it was getting down into the detail of funding, it needed to be not discussed in detail because it covered only one aspect of potential funding streams, and it was inappropriate to do that at that time because there were potentially other funding streams, and it just didn't, when I look at it, just did not feel appropriate to be discussing it now or at that time of the Thames Community Board meeting.
It should have been addressed at the board meeting, just a comment along those lines to help clarify that.
Yeah. So John Grant and then Terry, please.
Thanks. I'd just really like to speak in support of Rebecca and the questions that she has asked. My observation of it is I find it just the cart before the horse, I think, is the best description. That how you can proceed with a recommendation of an asset for the community at that sort of level without first having a discussion around how this can be funded is, to me, a little hard to understand. And, you know, I think probably what I'm hearing now is that is the next thing that will take place, where there will be a discussion around that. And I encourage that to happen, because I think that will then influence the recommendations that will come back to council. But the observation that was that you'd go for an option like that without understanding how it could be funded is something I just find a little bit hard to follow.
Thanks, John. Terry, and then Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, I'd just like to support both Rika and John on this. I looked at this and I thought there's not much transparency coming through here. When you're going to buy anything or put anything together, you need to know where your funding's coming from. And this has been going for years, and it seems to be slowly pushed along without understanding clearly that this is a project that the team's community want. And if they want it, they need to be clear about their funding. Don't interrupt me, Len. You're always doing that all the time. I'm having my moment. So just let me say my piece. No, you're not.
Advise you understanding orders section 28.3.
I'm allowed my point, Len. I'm making my point. This is a locally funded project and it didn't look like transparency was coming through. I'm making my point.
Okay. So are you leaving it there? So I'm going to repeat it again. Standing orders 28.3 states that no discussion shall arise on the substance of the minutes in any succeeding meeting except as to their correctness. So all I'm doing is pointing out the standing orders under which we work. This will be discussed in great detail. What we're doing is trying to decide whether the approval of those items from Thames Community Board are appropriate. And we're having a discussion around those A, B, and C as to their correctness. And that discussion around funding will happen, but not today. Not today. Peter, please.
So I agree that in the community board discussion there were comments made about funding by various people around the table, but that was not what the motion was about at the community board. And from my perspective, kind of to try and simplify it in my own mind, is the community board have made a visionary decision, if you like, to say this is the pool, that this is the aquatic facility that we think would be great for Thames. And that was the decision that has been made. And I think with the things that have been noted here, separate to that and becoming a separate matter is, if that is the vision, then how does the Thames community get to that point? And that's a question of then, how is this thing funded? And it would be simplistic and I think unwise for us around this table to be saying, well, we know how to fund whatever the value of this project is, because it is so big. We need to have a clear and very thorough investigations as to what are the funding options and how far that would get the Thames community to having this visionary aquatic facility. So I think in my mind, there are two very separate matters. One is, what is it that is the vision? And secondly, how can we get there? And I think there's a parallel, what we've seen in Auckland, where they were looking at stadia and they had 4 options and they reduced them to 2, and then they've reduced it to 1. The council has made a visionary decision to do Eden Park, but it's very clear that they have no idea how that funding is going to happen. But that is the direction of the thinking, that it's going to be a facility at Eden Park. Perhaps not the greatest parallel, but a similar sort of thing. It's a visionary decision that the Thames Community Board have made for its community. And now there's the challenge of, how is that community board going to fund that?
Thanks, Peter. So procedurally, from a procedural point of view, we've got item 5, notes the community board recommendations. We've got A, B, and C, and our options from a procedural point of view are to note or not to note. It's that simple. So we've somehow gone down into the weeds, and that's the wrong terminology. This is an important topic. But it's inappropriate and it's a breach of standing orders if we carry on this conversation. So I'm gonna do this. We're gonna go 5A, approve option G, all indoor aquatic facility fabric structure at Richmond Street, Thames High School, noting that the Thames Community Board preferred option will be included in the staff report. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for 5A?
I was putting my head up to say procedurally, we really should have had a mover and seconder before we started discussing it all, but I'm very happy to move, not just 5A, but all of them.
All right.
But excuse me, Len, isn't this all
Sure.
subject to the legal aspect, which we're still waiting the report on? Because the 1877 and the subsequent stuff has not been resolved. So
Sure.
we really are until we get that sorted, we can't take the next step.
Yeah. So we're confirming minutes today, noting or not noting. So I'll come to you in a second, Delhi. So we've got a mover and a seconder for 5A, B, and sorry, a mover for 5A, B, and C. We've got a seconder. Councillor Rodley, thank you. I'm going to put the motion, and once I put the motion, if it's carried, then we'll leave it there and we'll come back to this item when we've got the information. And as Gary says, there's a lot more work to be done on this and a lot of legal advice. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? All right. So what you're saying is that you choose not to note, because those are the only two options in front of us. Delhi, go ahead, please.
I find it a little bit strange, Len, that you shut Terry down and then Peter had a great big discussion like on the same standing orders. Really,
My job, Delhi.
none of it. No. You
That's my job.
No.
Standing orders.
However, I think there is an option that you haven't looked at, and that is to do a 5B and C and take A out of it.
We can't do that.
Can we do that, Ari?
It's a community board minutes.
Through the chair, can I just make a comment? I understand the procedural side here, that we're just being asked to note the minutes, and there will be a further debate around this and the funding at a later stage. So we can't not note the minutes, and I think we have seen very clearly that there is a lot of interest in a wider debate on this topic that will need to be had. So we're not approving any funding, we're not doing anything at all, apart from noting that this took place at the Thames Community Board and acknowledging that. So I'm happy to be supporting the noting of that.
Through the chair.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. That's exactly what I was going to say. We are just acknowledging the Thames Community Board recommendation.
And I don't know whether you picked up my abstention on that vote. I abstained, and the reason I abstained was because I realised we're only noting, but I believe at this table we should be able to send back a signal on those notes as to what we find palatable or not. I unfortunately it got moved as a group. I would have supported noting A and B. However, C causes me concern, and I would have noted it, but spoken about my concerns so the community board could hear them. But I abstained. Thank you.
But again, John, I understand what you're saying, and those concerns are shared around the council table. No discussion shall arise on the substance of the minutes in any succeeding meeting, except as to their correctness. We'll have lots of opportunities. Honestly, we will. So
Through the chair, because of Councillor Morrissey abstaining, we are now deadlocked. So it goes back to you.
okay, so I will I will vote in favour of noting.
Casting vote.
Casting vote. Thank you. And there will be lots of opportunities. All right. Thank you, team. we're going to item 6, confirms Thames Community Board District Council meeting minutes for the meeting held on 11th of March 2025 as a true and correct record of proceedings. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please, for that? I'm just trying to find a page number for those. Page 33. Okay. Mover is
Councillor Connell.
Councillor Connell. Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Item 7 confirms TCDC Council minutes for the meeting held 27th of March 2025 as a true and accurate record. I'll move it from the floor. All those in favour? Sorry, seconder, please. Peter Revel. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against or abstentions on that? No. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your patience, team. And some gnarly stuff ahead of us, but we'll get there. Right. Item. External committee minutes for receiving 1.7, which is page 43, please. And we've got Waikato Mayoral Forum. We've got Waikato Regional Council Karakia Scheme Subcommittee and Waikato Civil Defence Emergency Management. I will ask for item 1, mover and a seconder for receiving the minutes, please. Delhi, thank you. John Morrissey, all those in favour? This is just item 1. Thank you. Item 2, Waikato Mayoral Forum. I will move those. Seconder. Sorry, Martin. All those in favour?
Right, Lynn, can I just check, because in our recommendation, in our agenda pack, we have recommendation 2, which includes all 3 sets of minutes. So have you moved all 3 sets of minutes or just the Waikato Mayoral Forum?
If we go all 3 and we have people who were at one meeting as our delegate but not at the other one, that puts us in a slightly awkward position, because if there's discussion or reporting back on or corrections on any of those items, we've done them as a block.
Okay, so
we can do, don't we?
Yeah, through the chair, they're external minutes, so we wouldn't be able to make any corrections.
Can't.
And we're only receiving.
Okay, so let's follow Councillor Sinclair's guidance. We'll take item 2 as a block. I'll move it. Seconder, please. Councillor Grant. Any discussion? All those in favour? Those against? Okay, carried. Thank you. Item 1.8, workshop notes for receiving, page 44. And we've got, that's not highlighted, but that's resolutions, isn't it? We just do that as normal.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So page 44, we'll do the same here. Mover and a seconder, please, for items 1 and 2, workshop notes for receiving. Terry, seconder Delhi, all those in favour? Sure.
Say something. I have had a couple of phone calls from folks that have been interested in reading our workshop notes, and they've sort of asked me, how do I find them? And I'm like, you've got to go into the order paper and they'll be there. Is there a way, as this is new and exciting for people, that we could have something on the website that says, read our workshop minutes here? It just as it's new and as they bed in and get used to finding them.
Through the chair, you may recall, I think it was at the last council meeting that I did a demonstration of where you can find those on our website. So you can actually find them on there.
Just the minutes.
Yep,
for
you can
these.
find the notes.
Okay. I wasn't
Would
very
you
good at
like me
blaming
to?
that on. No, that's okay. I'll talk to you later. Thanks, Ari.
Yeah.
Do the vote on that? Thank you.
Through the chair, can I just add to what was asked for? I take it that Reka was actually asking that we make it clearer to the public as to how we find where these are. And, you know, it was great that we had a lesson through where to go. But I think what is being asked for is, could we just have something that is on the website that explains it so that people can find it easily?
Or a social media post.
Through the chair, yes, we can definitely do that. We could do a comms update perhaps out to constituents. Yeah, cool.
Does that help, Reka? I think it's a great idea. Yeah, awesome. Yep. You. Okay, item 2.1, public consultation on the rates review. You look like you were hovering. 2.1, and Donna's online with us today, I think. Hi, Donna, welcome. Can you hear it at your end? Can you hear clearly?
Should we just?
Yeah.
Welcome, Peter.
Yeah, kia ora, everybody. I can hear.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Just a quick consideration, because there is a lot of interest in this item, that when we have a speaker, introduce the speaker perhaps and what their role is in council.
Great idea.
Did you want to receive this?
Yeah, so let's receive the public consultation on the rates review proposal, which is item 1. So could I get a mover and a seconder, please, just to receive? Robin, seconder, Delhi, all those in favour? Thank you. All right.
Yep. So I just wanted, by way of introduction, firstly, I just want to say thank you to Donna, because I've shared with councillors Donna's adventure over the last few days, and just really, really appreciative that you're here online to support this item. So this is a major piece of work that is in front of us. This is something council signalled it wanted to do when the council was first formed in the beginning of this triennium. We delayed it because the time wasn't right. Following Cyclone Gabriel, when we had all that immense workload. And this piece of work is about 5 months, 6 months in the making. And we've invested significant amount of staff time and resource and consultant time in it. And I understand we have a presentation from Donna and Peter, and we also have Jonathan Salter joining us just to give some legal overview of the process. So happy to hand over now to Donna and Peter. Peter is our CFO, for those that want an introduction. Donna, of course, is our GM, Finance and Corporate Services.
Thanks, Aileen. That's a big help. Peter, over to you. Welcome.
Kia ora, thank you. So I will take the report as read, however, I'll step through a bit of the background and the process to date, as well as there are some changes to the report and consultation document from what was initially circulated, and I'll just run through those at a high level before passing over to Jonathan Salter for some comments on the review. So as far as background, this process was initially considered back in 2008. It has then sat for some time before a report was developed in 2018 to identify the merits of a rating review. Fast forward to 2023, where this council has now considered some options and has set aside some funding to undertake the rating review. The rating review process itself was then kicked off in November of 2024, where council, through a series of workshops, has considered what it wants to achieve through a rating review. Subsequent workshops have then looked at modelling the impacts of those changes and indicating a direction to take in the overall rating review itself, which is how we have landed on the document that is in front of you. So just at a high level, the changes to the initial document and the agenda for the report really focus on some of the references to legislation, ensuring that those are updated, ensuring that the terms used in the report reflect what they need to be, and ensuring that the report is consistent both with itself and the consultation document. As far as changes to the consultation document, there have been a number of changes to ensure clarity of the document and ensure that the terms used in the document reflect how rates are actually set here at TCDC. So I'll pause there and hand over to Jonathan Salter, who's got a number of comments to make.
Kia ora tātou. I'm hoping you can hear me.
We can. Thank you, Jonathan.
That's great. Well, first off, kind of a big up to the council for embarking on a rates review. If it sounds like it's a long time since the last one and circumstances change over time. The nature of a rates review is that any change to the mechanism of rates changes how they fall within the community, which means you inevitably have winners and losers in the sense that some people's rates will be more than they would have been and some people's rates will be less. And that's just a feature of rates. Rates are a pretty complex taxing system that is authorised under our Local Government Rating Act. So there are a lot of different levers that can be pulled to get refinements and different outcomes. So yes, it's a quite a process to embark on. I've been very actively reviewing the documents that Donna's shown me, and got to say, I think the work so far looks really good. The specific proposals, which are obviously all in that document, are on the face of it very sensible ones. There is reasoning for them, and very importantly, there's an underlying link to section 101 subsection 3 of the Local Government Act, because that one subsection in the Local Government Act is the underpinning of all revenue decisions that councils make. And when push comes to shove and legal challenges arise, they will focus inevitably around section 1013, which is the mandatory considerations for any revenue decision making. And that is recorded in your documents. It's importantly recorded in the revenue and financing policy and the back underlying information behind that, the funding needs analysis. So that all looks pretty robust. And just to kind of, one of the things that I think needs to be quite clear is that the outcome of this consultation will be to set the scene for the 2026-27 funding impact statement, which will be in your annual plan, and the changes will take effect for that year. And to achieve all of that, to achieve alignment, there does need to be, if the proposals are adopted in due course, there needs to be quite small but relatively important changes to the revenue and financing policy. And obviously one of the proposals relates to the remission policy. So those policies will be an outcome. Changes to those policies will be an outcome. So that's sort of a generality of it all. Just thinking about it in terms of your own roles, obviously in determining your preferred outcomes, you'll be considering what you think is fair and reasonable for your community. There may be aspects of the proposal that you are particularly interested in, and maybe what about you which you feel strongly. Obviously, in a consultation process, the Local Government Act, but also the general law, requires elected members to, in any consultation, keep an open mind and act impartially. Once the council's resolved the consultation proposal and it goes out there into the community, it is certainly your role to support community engaging with it, but it's not your role to be actively advocating or defending or opposing any of the aspects of the proposal at that point. Clearly, there'll be a role for the council's leaders, the mayor, maybe committee chair, and perhaps most importantly, the chief executive, perhaps, to explain what the proposals mean so that the community understands them, but not to advocate for what they're trying to achieve, to the specifics. Clearly, I think there's an open point to advocate for the underlying principles, which are all about fairness and equity and a connection to benefit. Overly active participation in the consultation process through the consultation phase, like elected members, does raise the possibility of a perception of bias or partiality, and which would then become a litigation risk once the final decisions are made. And just talking about litigation risk, my career has really, in large part, centered around rating challenges right back to the 1990s. And what is apparent from our history of litigation in New Zealand in this area is there are some basic propositions that will be the angle at which challenges would come. And the first and the most sort of risky one really is procedural failure. So in some way, the consultation fails, you don't comply with the statutory obligations around all of that. Or indeed, there is, at the end of the day, a clear problem of bias or predetermination. That is effectively a procedural failure. The other thing is, the other angle that will be looked at is that Section 1013, as I mentioned earlier, underpins it, which it currently does. And then finally, the long shot challenge is on the grounds of unreasonableness. People don't like the outcome. You know, the process has been good. Section 1013 has been addressed, but they just don't like the outcome, and there's an allegation that's unreasonable. There have been, and certainly there will be people whose rates have gone up who will think, oh gosh, this is unfair, and then sort of argue that it's wrong or unreasonable. But the bar on this is set extremely high. Back in the 1990s, the Court of Appeal settled our law on this in the Wellington and Woolworths case. Far more recently, our Supreme Court, which is a higher court, has determined it even more clearly in a case involving CP Group and Auckland Council, which related to a new targeted rate imposing quite a significant impost on hotels, motels, and accommodation provider. That ultimately was held not to be unreasonable and was upheld by the Supreme Court. Now, it doesn't strike me that any of the proposals that you have on the table would come anywhere near that test of unreasonableness. The most recent cases that have been to either the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal, in the case of the Auckland targeted rate on accommodation providers, that was introducing a new $13 million impost only on hotels and motels and other accommodation providers, which had a very substantial effect on their rates. And the other case, which went to the Court of Appeal, involved Wairoa District Council and forestry, a very strong targeted differential of about 5-fold differential on production forestry. And both of those scenarios, although they made a big impact on the particular industries that they affected, were not held to be unreasonable, and because due process had been followed, they were upheld. So basically what the court has been saying very strongly is that nobody can sort of expect the status quo to maintain, to continue, but councils can exercise their discretion around what they want their rating policy to be. And after all, rating policy is a very high public policy consideration, which the courts accept sits as a responsibility of elected members, not of the courts, which is why the courts are very reluctant to intervene. So I think everything on the table at the moment looks robust. The risks would be probably something goes wrong with consultation, and at the end of the process, something arbitrary occurs, or there's an allegation of bias, those sorts of things. Those would be the risks, but they don't sit there at the moment. I just sort of yes.
If I can interrupt, I know we've got a lot to get through in this. I'm going to suggest that if it's okay with you, we stop and take some questions along the way so that we don't get too far off and down the next road before people have addressed their concerns. So we've got one question. Deli, have you got a question? Thank you. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've made my main points.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. And it's always wonderful to have someone with a legal background who can explain things clearly. So well done. Hey, we've got a lot of people online. There's a lot of interest in this topic and talking about challenges such as predetermination or bias. Whenever the council goes out for consultation, we indicate our preferred option. So I understand that legally we are able to do that. I'll ask for your comment in a moment. The other thing is being too actively involved in the consultation process. So if we have drop-in sessions and you have all of the councillors turning up to the drop-in sessions, is that perceived as being overly involved? Should we be leaving it to staff in those drop-in sessions to be working with the public and explaining what those options are? So probably two parts there for you, Jonathan.
Yeah, could you just repeat what the first part was? I'm so sorry. Yes, the proposal.
That we go out with a and have done previously a preferred option.
Yeah, basically the law requires it. That's the way the Local Government Act is framed for consultation, that you have a proposal. So it doesn't amount to predetermination to have voted in favour of what you're consulting on. I mean, that, in a sense, if it did, it would be absurd. So yes, the law expects you to get to the point where you have a proposition to take to the community. That doesn't amount to predetermination. Good consultation will also address options. So there'll be alternatives out there, and that's what your consultation document does. So that is entirely appropriate, and there's no predetermination in the following what the process requires. The second point about the drop-ins and councillor participation, I think it is part of good governance that elected members do front this in some way, not overly fronting it, but be available. And as I said at the beginning, the key role is to actually encourage engagement. That's one of the consultation principles in the legislation, is to encourage engagement, and councillors should do that. It's fair enough to have conversations reacting to what people are saying, but not committing to what they're saying, and not unduly defending or opposing anything in that engagement process. The engagement process is make information available and then listen. The time to take sides, the time to have a declared position, is at the end of the consultation when you're deliberating.
Brilliant. That's really clear. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. No other questions at this stage. Happy for Jonathan to carry on? All right, back to you, mate.
Well, I don't know that I've had too much that I haven't already covered. I do want to sort of restate the obvious, that it's inevitable that people whose rates will go up, it's human nature, they'll feel disinclined to support it in the community, and they will oppose it. So you're going to get inherently more submissions from those that oppose than those favour, but that's partly because you're giving them excellent information about the impact of the change. The fair share calculator that's part of your consultation material is a really excellent mechanism for achieving transparency and informing people. Of course, it does inform everybody who takes the time to check on it. shows them whether they're going to get a positive or a negative effect from the changes. And those for whom it's a negative effect are more likely to present views. So at the end of the day, that's an inherent aspect of the process when it comes to deliberation, and this is probably getting ahead of ourselves a bit. I think it's important to remember what were your principles that underpinned this review, principles of fairness, equity, affordability, and keep those in your frame, and exercise your discretions in due course based on that. So I think that's about, I mean, just reiterate the point that our Supreme Court has made it very clear. Elected councils do have the discretion to change their rating system. That change will inevitably cause negative effects for some aspects of the community. And in the case of the Auckland accommodation targeted rate, very severe impact on one sector of the community. But you do have that discretion, and only in the most extreme situations would that be overturned by the courts for unreasonableness. The issue is sticking to good process. So I think I'll leave it there, unless there are more questions.
Jonathan, one quick one from me. In the years that you've been doing this, how common is it for legal challenges to be mounted when you have a rating review process underway? And what levels are there? There's judicial review, obviously, but what levels are there? Is it straight to judicial review if somebody's going in that direction?
Yes, it is. Judicial review is really the only legal option for challenging the discretions that councils are exercising. I think it's not as common as you might think. I think threats of legal challenge are common, that they are readily made, but actual legal challenges, they are not that frequent. Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I've got about a handful I could recall in the last 15 years. So they're not that common, because for the reasons I've given, once people have understood the legal context of council's discretions and policy authorities in this situation, it's quite a big step to take, and involves quite a bit of financial commitment to actually try and undo what a council is doing. If there's a sort of a glaring procedural failure that's sort of evident, more often than not, a council will kind of reset itself and take further process steps. But on the face of it, that doesn't look like it's an issue at the moment for your council.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councillors, any further questions of Jonathan before we hand back to Peter? No, nothing at this stage. All right. Are you staying with us through this session, Jonathan?
Yes, I will be.
Thank you. All right, Peter, over to you.
All right, thank you. And thank you for that, Jonathan. So moving on to the options within the report, there are two proposals that are included. The first proposal is in relation to rethinking our rates, and that includes three options. The first option would obviously be the status quo. The second option is a move in the rating valuation basis from land value on those rates that are currently set on a land value basis to capital value. And option three is option two, so the land value to capital value move, plus some further changes in rates funding solid waste and the district transportation and building control activities.
Peter, sorry to interrupt, and I'm just aware that the information that we have here covers a lot of ground and a lot of different aspects of the rating review. As you go through and talk to us about options, could you refer, please, to the page number so that we are clear on and all on the same page in terms of what we're talking about? So
Sorry, Lynn, some of the challenges there is it's the edited document that we're working from. But it
The,
might have different page numbers.
yeah, so the draft,
The one with the track changes.
is that online, is it? So
Yeah,
I've got hard
but-
copy, I don't have.
Ah. So we're probably all on different.
Yes. Yep. So it is on page 8 of the standalone document that I'm referring to. I believe so.
So Peter, just a very quick comment that the councillors and the staff and the mayor understand that when we refer to district transportation, what that means. But again, for the public and for those online, can we bracket even in the document about it being roading rather than bus services, please?
Well done. I had the same comment.
Thank you. Yes, so if we could just scroll to the bottom of the page there. So the first proposal, and I've just run through each of those options, so thank you for the clarification there. Councillor Connell, district transportation here refers to district roading, not any other transportation that you may be used to.
Could that be amended in the consultation document that goes out to the public? Because at the moment there is no bracketed note that this is district roading, even though I understand that transportation is the word that we're obliged to use in our policy.
We'll probably need to have a discussion with Jonathan there. I think our challenge there is ensuring that we have alignment between the terms that we use in our revenue and financing policies and council fizzes to what is actually in the consultation document.
I'm just wondering whether or not it could be asterisked with a footnote, you know, that we're actually using the correct terminology according to our policy, but I just really don't want the public to be thinking they're talking about buses or something and not understand, because it is important when we engage and consult that the public who we serve actually do understand what they're being consulted or asked about.
Yes, we can have a look at additional explainers in the consultation document for that. And so that option 3 is proposed as the preferred option, for the reason being it does simplify some of the rates and create that clarity as spelled out in the report. So if we could move to page 13, the very bottom. Yeah, so it must be top page 14 in your version. So proposal 2 is in relation to rethinking council's approach to second dwellings, and this is in relation to the rates that council charges on a per SUIP basis, which is our separately used or inhabited parts of a rating unit. And there are some proposals there to change some of the ways that council deals with those SUIPs. So option 1 is our status quo. Option 2 is a proposed change to the definition of a SUIP or council SUIP policy. So what is actually captured as a separately used or inhabited part. And option 3 is a proposed change to council's remission policy that currently provides an automatic 50% remission on second SUIPs that meet specific criteria that are defined in the policy, and increasing that remission to 100%.
I'm sorry to be that person. This is kind of my pet project, if you like. I'm one of the councillors that had been approached by quite a few people I've got a couple of questions around clarity. One is that a lot of people, when they hear two SUIPs, those separate parts, are thinking that maybe they have two cabins on their property as well as their main dwelling, and don't realise that their main dwelling is counted as one of those. So when we talk about people who only have two SUIPs, we're talking about maybe, you know, mum and dad have got a house and they've got a smaller unit in their garden. So I really would like a footnote or a note of clarification around that. The other one is in option 3, and it's around the criteria. So in the consultation document, it talks about the remission based on criteria. So I'm wondering if that criteria should be listed in the consultation document as well. Does that make sense to everybody? Because I know, particularly on the Eastern Seaboard, this is a really hot topic. Because there are a lot more people, I think, or I believe, that have got dwellings that they, you know, mum and dad investors or whatever, or retirees, who will be quite interested in this question.
Deli, I think you make a really good point, and I flagged that myself. So thank you for raising that. I'm just wondering whether there's an opportunity to do that with graphics.
So
Thank you.
on the first one noted, on the second point around the criteria, the consultation does have the relevant excerpts from the policy, so that criteria can be seen. Donna, did you have a point to make there?
You said it, Peter. That's exactly what I was going to say, that the actual consultation proposal, the proposal document is quite detailed to explain what the criteria is.
Thanks, Donna. Is that helpful, Deli, to cover that? Thank you. Any other questions before we ask Peter to carry on? Okay.
Thank you. So as far as the options for consultation, those we've just set out, there is a engagement plan that goes with this, which you will have the details of that as well. Happy to answer any questions around that.
That's the table of the drop-in sessions?
Yes.
Is that complete now that they're all lined up?
I believe so, but it is obviously subject to some decisions at today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Right, Deli.
Can I ask a question about that? Because there has been some thought about the amount of consultation that's coming up for our constituents. When is the time to discuss whether or not this consultation gets pushed by a month or however long? Because that would affect the consultation drop-ins.
It's one of the options on the table today in terms of decisions, resolutions.
At the resolution time, because that would affect the timetable of drop-ins. Yeah.
So I am just looking, and I might need some help here. So I'm just looking at the.
Would you drop that one in?
Those options, which will
Yep.
be part of the proposal we
Yep.
decide.
Yep.
You have your options that are part of the report.
Yep.
Which is where we discuss whether or not we're going to go out.
Yep.
Consultation, decide a pause, or decide.
Sure. Thank you. So I guess the.
Donna has her hand up too, so she might have.
Sure, thank you. Donna, I know we've got some page numbers that we can refer councillors to, but have you got something to help us through that?
My one, I'm looking at page 18. I'm presuming your one will be very close to that, if not on page 18. That option 2 does give the option to pause the rates review proposed pending further consideration of options, or that could be anything of timing, the summary in there says there could be lots of reasons really why you would want to defer it. So that is one of the options that is on the table for discussion today. I think the next, where we're probably Peter's heading with the next part is for you to have these discussions, to have these debates about the options. And I think we're ready for that now, Peter.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks, Donna. So just for clarity, pages 17, 18 through to the end of 19, options 1, 2 and 3. Option 2 is decide to pause. Option 3 is decide to not continue with the proposal. All councillors clear on those page numbers? The thing that I'm just not sure on is how they circle back to the actual resolutions.
So through the chair, if I may, it says in the document that the resolutions are based on the preferred option.
Right. Which is
option 1.
Option 1 on page 17. So assuming that we go with the preferred option, then the resolutions kick in and we work our way through those. Thanks, Donna. So Martin, please. You're green.
Let's go red instead. Red is best. So are we still having conversations around the consultation document? There was just really one suggestion that I wanted to make was, but it refers to, with the SERPs, it refers to minor dwellings that meet a particular criteria. Is there any opportunity to actually be able to say, well, that's 60 square meters or under, or does it vary depending on each individual property?
So that criteria is set out in the policy, which is now included specifically. So you have each of those.
I'd like to apologize.
Ask a question on process here, just to clarify through the chair, that we are able to go through all of the resolutions, ratify the documents in the preferred option, and then when we get to number 6 in the recommendations, I think it's number 6, we can say, due to the heavy consultation load on the general public, we'll defer the dates by a month or whatever. So can we carry on with what we'd planned to do so it's clear to everyone, and then if it's deemed that we want to delay, we can do that?
Well, I think Deli's asking a process question about in what order do we actually deal with these individual decisions, and it's a little bit circular, isn't it? Because if council decide to go with option 3, then there's no need to make any other decisions. If you want to go with option 2, it's probably wise to actually make the option decisions first. So without wanting to preempt where council are going, I'd be suggesting that you actually do decide which option you might want to consult on and then have a conversation about the timing. Unless there's a view that actually you want to stop the whole thing here, in which case we could. Yeah, okay. So I'm not getting the feeling that that's the direction. Thank you.
So look, in that case, let's have the discussion. And I know.
Can I just follow on what Aileen said? What we've now got is the rug's been completely pulled, and we're throwing out there something that, I think it's a bit mishmash now, and we're not really making changes. If we come up with any of those, leave it up to the ratepayers. pause it and what all these other ones. I don't know why we're putting so much time and effort into it. We don't have to do this. We've got all these other things we've got to deal with. That's my blunt view on it.
Thanks. Thanks, Gary. Peter, did you have some thoughts on the
Well, I
timing of the
do.
process?
I do. So, first of all, I'd like to say that I think it's fantastic that we're doing a rate review for all the reasons that we've decided to do it. And I just want to also acknowledge actually the pace with which it has happened and the thoroughness in the whole thing. It puts it in a position to make a good decision. Secondly, I am totally supportive of going out to consultation, having made the call on the preferred recommendations. We should now put that in front of the public. My one concern, and I feel really strongly about it, is just the timing of the consultation. I'm very clear in my own mind about what we need to consult on. I'm very clear that there's nothing we need to relitigate or review or what have you. But it's the timing of the consultation. And my concern around that is because we have another couple of matters that we do have to, by law, consult on within a certain time frame. And that's we need to consult on the annual plan, and we have to get the results of that consultation. And secondly, and probably most importantly, and probably one of the biggest decisions that our district council has had to make in a number of years is the matter of the local waters done well. And it's absolutely critical that the consultation we do around local waters done well is absolutely clear for the public, and it is not confused by other things that will distract the public from giving us the full attention to local waters done well. Local waters done well will have an impact on people's rates. The rating review will have an impact on people's rates, and if they put the two things together, we'll not get the clarity we need around both issues. So my recommendation is that we would be absolutely unwise to go out with consultation on both those matters at the same time. We have to do local waters done well because we're on a legislated time frame for that. The consultation about the rates review can, in my view, be pushed out as long as we still have the time to get it in place before the financial year FY26-27.
Thanks, Peter. So we've got some folks lined up who want to contribute to the conversation. And Aileen's just made a suggestion, which I think is a good one. If we look at page 8 and we look at options 1, 2, and 3, and we make a decision on what we want to do there, then it becomes a matter of page 17, which is the timing of what we do next. So if we make a decision, and Peter, you started the conversation by saying, I absolutely support the rating review, but you have concerns about the timing and the over consultation. So have I got that right? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You guys sit next to each other or something.
I'm aware
so
there's other people who need to have a view.
Yeah, so I've got John, Grant, Robin, John Morrissey, and Rekha. So we'll go through in that order. But if you can be mindful of that as a proposal for working our way through this process, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. John Grant.
I'd like to open up by saying I absolutely support the rating review. I think it is good timing to be looking at this. I believe that it is something that brings in a further element of fairness to the way that the rates are done, particularly in a community like ours with the SERPs and the need to address that issue. And I believe that it can be done through this process. And I absolutely share the view of my fellow councillor in regard to the timing of this. I am aware of just how much we are going to the community with at the moment, and I want this to get good debate and discussion with our community. And I don't believe that, I believe that we run a real risk of if we do it now, that this will get just put in with everything else that is happening and ranked down in order which it doesn't deserve to be. And for that reason, I also understand that it would be wise, I think, to look at the timing. What I don't understand, and I would appreciate some advice from staff on, is how critical the timing actually is. And if we were to look at a deferral, and we can probably look at that in the second part of this proposal, just how critical that would be. But I am more than happy to move, and I would be supporting option 3 in regard to this staff recommendation.
Thank you, John. Robin, please.
John Grant has asked a question of staff, and I wonder if that could be answered before I had my turn.
Absolutely. So you're talking about the implications of.
That is what John Grant asked, yes.
Thank you. Donna, thoughts?
Yes, so through the chair, the implications are, because of the election is a big implication for delaying, which is part of the reason why, although not ideal, that it's ended up how it has. Once I think it's from the 11th of July, once pre-election period starts, council shouldn't be making any significant decisions. And so for timing wise, we had to work it out, backdate it from them to make sure that we were sticking to the right timeline and that we were able to get everything done. We were able to get consultation done, submissions reviewed and analysed, and then have the deliberation meetings and everything all and with a view to council being able to make a decision before the pre-election period. Any delay, which is totally your decision, and would mean that decisions I would suggest would need to be made that wouldn't be made this term. They would need to be, any decision would need to be made next term. And I guess what the issues that we would run into then is any change in council over that period or over that election time. We would possibly have to start the process, or at least maybe not the whole process again, but we would certainly have to start an element of the process again. So those are the risks that I can just think quickly off the top of my head with delay.
Thanks, Donna. That's really helpful. John, does that help?
Yeah, it does. Can I just get a clarification on that, though, just in regard to the timing? So the July period becomes quite critical. If we went out for consultation prior to that period, would we still be able to make the decision afterwards or not?
No, the timing wouldn't allow it. It depends, I guess, when you're talking about going out for consultation, but we're already very, very tight with this consultation timeframe. We've backdated from the last time that, the latest that you could possibly make a decision on this, and the processes that have to happen with consultation, submissions and deliberations. I think there could be an option to shorten the consultation period. That would really be the only thing that I could think that could be done to still, for this council to still be able to make a decision within the time frame before pre-election.
Thanks, Donna.
But we would need to get legal advice on that, and also, we're thinking about the public's opportunity to engage by shortening the consultation period, whether that would be palatable.
Thank you. Robin, please.
Thank you, Donna. I think that That is a substantial risk, and it's worth us all keeping in mind. I would be at this stage urging all of my fellow councillors to continue as recommended in the document for a couple of different reasons. Mostly the fairness and equity part of this. This is something that every one of us elected members has had conversations with people in our communities saying that they don't think that the way we rate is fair. And this is our opportunity to really address those concerns and to start with that. Also, I'm very aware, although I don't receive as many emails as apparently Councillor Connell, that we have had a couple of groups come to present to us over our term about the SUIPs. And this is our opportunity to address those concerns that we've heard directly from people who are affected as individuals, such as the woman who presented to us at Risk and Assurance, but also, if you recall, during the long-term plan submissions, we had the Tyro Business Association raise the SUIPs as a concern. And then I did mention we've got a housing shortage, an alleged housing shortage here, and this is a positive step that we can move towards. And the final thing to say really is I feel like there are, yes, 3 potential consultation documents out and available. And if we were to think about our ratepayers, I hear and believe that we have a lot of highly intelligent and highly politically aware and astute people on the peninsula who can distinguish the difference between the 3 things that we're asking them. But I also want you to imagine a Venn diagram of people who are interested in rates, people who are interested in water, and people who are interested in the annual plan and rubbish. And there will be people who will be right in the middle of that Venn diagram and wanting to take part in all of those consultations. There'll be people who are interested in rubbish and interested in rates, but not interested in water and all of those possible permutations. And so I feel to give them due and to make sure that we are making good decisions in our time as governors, that we must proceed with staff recommendations as they are.
Thanks, Robin. Got Sean Morrissey and then Rekha, and then I think we might have an opportunity here to sort of lock in the direction of this from what I'm hearing. So let's hear from John Morrissey and Rekha, and then see what we can do in terms of landing on a direction for the staff so they know what they're doing. John, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Like I think every councillor around this table, I think it's fantastic that we're actually doing this rates review. I don't want to sound like an old dinosaur that's been around forever, but this council is the best one as far as addressing fairness and equity through a rates review that I've been on. Other councils have struggled, kicked it aside, too hard to deal with, but this council's grasped it, sat and listened to the arguments for and against, been educated, because I know there were councillors here at this table that didn't actually like the idea of the change from land value to capital value, but through education, time, many meetings, the council has changed its point of view, I believe, and is ready now to look seriously and deal with this rates review. The timing is never going to be right. This is the best time I've seen ever on council to deal with this. The danger with delaying it is that we are not going to meet our deadlines, that we will be pushed through an election, that a new council, because none of us know who's going to be sitting here, will have to go through that entire education process that Donna has put us through. And that was many hours, much cost to get us to the point where we're at. We are in a good position as educated councillors on this matter to deal with it. I know there's a lot on our plate and on consultation at the moment going out to the public. But like I said, the timing will never, ever be right. There'll always be a reason why not to. We have worked very hard to get to this point. I am not in favour of any delays. I think this is an opportunity to do the right thing regarding fairness and equity. It also will bring us into line with the majority of councils around this country who have been through the same process, and a lot now are actually capital value, not land value. If we don't deal with it now, guys, this will be put on a shelf and possibly not dusted, gather dust up there. A new council may not actually want to embrace it the way we have. I think this is an opportunity. If we miss it, it may never happen again. Like I say, I've done 20 odd years floating around this council table in one way or another, and I've seen it looked at, I've seen it pushed aside. This council is one that we can be proud of. It's actually grasped it and it's ready to deal with it. So I'm all for sticking to the deadline.
Thank you, oh wise one. Rika, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to start by congratulating staff. I mean, there's been a huge amount of work and this is really complex. And I remember sitting in the first workshop thinking, how are we ever going to land this? This is huge. And as I read through the consultation documents and the like, I think you guys have done a really, really stellar job. It is just really unfortunate that we sit in this position where we have got these heavy consultation processes happening. And I have spent a lot of time talking to members of my community of recent just around the waters, the rubbish, what does that mean? And I am really concerned that this is just another layer. It is complex, it's different. The calculator will be great and it will help make things very transparent for people. But I think that we actually have a real duty to our communities to give them some clear airspace and let them digest these big topics. So I am going to ask that we defer. I push back on whether we can make decisions in that time leading up to the election, because the last outgoing council signed a very significant waste contract at their very, very last meeting. So whether we can delay this by a handful of weeks, I wouldn't support shortening the consultation time, but I would like to have a conversation whether we can find some time pre-election. If we can't, I would then suggest we move it to the new incoming term for the new council. That's just my thoughts.
Thanks, Rika. Martin, you had your hand up as well, please.
Yes, just very quickly, I came into the start of this discussion wanting to listen to my colleagues' thoughts. At this stage, well, I am now at the point of wanting to press ahead with it for the reasons that others have given. And I worry about with the consultation fatigue overload, there could be an argument to saying, actually, let's say, right, we're consulting on this and this and this, and it's there in one patch and one time frame. If we stretch it out and then we risk you guys are always consulting on stuff so much. So I think there are equal arguments either way. And my colleagues' comments about the Venn diagrams, yes, there are people interested. I suspect those people interested have got time and the intelligence to be able to sort through and make intelligent submissions. So yeah, I'll be supporting pressing ahead with it.
Martin, can I just ask you, because I'm taking some notes here, what would your position be on a shortened consultation period?
If it's done well, maybe, but I would worry that we might then be in, and I'm not sure if Jonathan was wincing there or not, we may well be in potential breach of issues if we shorten it. That would be a...
Donna commented earlier, we'd need to take some advice before we could offer that as an option.
Thank you.
Ask a question of Jonathan. Could it be if we're having all these consultations happening at the time, someone could come back and say we were overwhelmed and that process was wrong, because it could in fact be that way.
Thank you. So look,
question to Jonathan.
Sorry, Jonathan, are you happy to?
Sure. Yeah. I think that's it's an unlikely ground for a review. I think it would have to be manifest evidence that people were totally confused and bamboozled by it all, and I've never seen that happen. I've certainly seen grumbling and heard grumbling in the past, but no, I don't think that would be a likely effective challenge. Can I just make a comment about the time frame, the period of consultation, the shortening of it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the principles of consultation in section 82 require giving a reasonable opportunity to both understand and respond. And although it's not like a special consultative procedure where there's a mandatory period of at least a month for consultation, so that doesn't exist for this process. But when you think about it and think, well, how much less than a month would be okay? I think you've all acknowledged this is complex. You've all taken a lot of time to get to understand what goes on in a rates review and how the various levers work and the different impacts. I think that's the same for the community, and it's very hard to imagine how a shortened period could leave everybody feeling they had a reasonable opportunity to both understand and respond. So I think that the 4 weeks, which sort of mirrors the mandatory requirement, if it were a special consultative procedure, is a very sound expectation.
Thanks, Jonathan. That's helpful. Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, just thanks for those comments, Jonathan. I think I align my views with that. We're both the water done well and the rating review are very complex, but very in the minds of people out in the ratepayers out there. So they really want to engage with this and spend the time doing it. So I too, if I look at the LTP and look at what's coming ahead, it looks very, very busy to me. And if we go back to the waste contract, that was pushed through, and we've had some regrets over some of the things that's happened in that one. So I'm very much one for deferring this if we can't put it in the current.
So Terry, can I just clarify? I'm just making some notes as I go. You support the need for a rates review, but you would prefer to see it delayed and no shortened consultation? No. Okay. So what I'm doing is making some notes here about councillors' individual positions on supporting the rates review, and then the mood for either moving ahead or delaying the process. Have I missed anyone? Have I not noted thoughts and concerns? Delly?
Can I just comment that I may be flip-flopping on this, which I think is quite a good thing to do when you listen to the advice and listen to what Donna's saying to us. And these guys do have the expertise in this field. I walked into the room quite convinced about deferring, but I would be open to doing all three. I think it's the way that we do all three that would be very, very important. So something I raised when these consultations were first mooted was the colour coding, and I think that staff have done a very good job on that. I'm now wondering if staff and elected members are at a drop-in session have, however it's organised, 3 different tables with the different consultation documents onto them. The person who might have only been interested in the rating review may actually be captured to have a look at the water's done well as well, if those 3 are available to them in that drop-in session at the same time. So I'm not dying in the ditch on deferring. I'm really concerned about deferring and then ending up in a period where we're not meant to be making major decisions. I would like to see this rating review, as John Morrissey expressed eloquently, be dusted off and actually done and dealt with. So here I am confessing to a slight flip-flop here. Want it to go through, want it to be reviewed, want it to be a robust process. If it has to be all 3, then all of the staff involved and all of the elected members involved have to be really aware of that and to act accordingly to make sure that people are given the opportunity to consult on the ones they want to consult on.
Thanks, Delly. Martin, go ahead.
So I may be preempting what you may be about to state your position, but I wondered if, because you've been writing down what we were thinking, have you got a...
Absolutely. So I definitely support the rating review, and I have to say, like I think a number of councillors started this process thinking, gee whiz, this is potentially complicated. I think the team have done an awesome job on presenting it in a very clear and easy to follow way. So thank you, Donna. Thank you, Peter, for the work that you've done. It's helped me enormously, but I support it. I would like to see it go ahead without deferring it, because I have a feeling in my bones that if we defer it, then we're going to end up 12 months down the track. And I'm hear the words of the wise old gentleman in the corner there. And he's seen this happen before. We've got an opportunity to not just take advantage of the good work that's been done, but actually progress and get us in line with what other councils are doing around the country. I'm also mindful of page 19, where we're looking at the potential for sunk costs, which concerns me. We're all concerned about, and this is costs of money already. We don't want to spend it all over again, and I have a feeling that we would need to be starting again from scratch in some ways. So that's my position. I support it, and I'd like to see it done without deferral, and get it over with. Thank you. Peter?
Yeah, so just a couple of questions. Firstly, Jonathan, you'd be aware that we have a program of work around local waters done well, and you would have, I assume, some appreciation of the enormity of the task around that and the needs of consultation for that. Do you have concerns that we as a council have got these two very big issues that we are wanting to get the feedback from our public about? Do you have concerns that that's could end up in a consultation train smash?
Well, yes, I am aware of the complexity of the obligations under the water reforms. What I'm not quite clear about is the actual. I'm sure I know what the timing is for the rates review, which pretty much kicks off immediately. What I'm not sure about is where you're at with annual plan consultation, and when you intend to carry out the water reform consultation, because that one has to have a decision off to the Secretary for Local Government by the 3rd of September. So that's a bit further down the track, but I'm not sure what your timing is. The other thing I'd say is the subject matter of those two consultations, water reform and rates review, it's very different content. They are quite distinguishable. I'm also kind of interested in what I hear from councillors' comments that there is a concept of colour coding. I know that the rates review is green. Presumably water reform is blue. And that seems like a very sound differentiation. I'm very much aware of situations in the past where communities have grumbled about having to be responding to too many things. I think you have very clear reasons about why you would be doing three things more or less at once, but I'm not sure that they are exactly all at once.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Aileen, do you want to clarify for?
Yeah, just to clarify, they are fairly much overlapping. We're out on the annual plan on a limited basis. We have waters, the next item on this agenda actually, to go out to consultation thereafter, and then we have this as well. So there's efficiencies in consultation overlapping, but there is also the downside of it being a significant load on the community.
And my second question is a question to staff, is about the if all consultations were to be being done at the same time, the confidence that staff have that the communication around the consultation documents, the consultation material, etc., confidence to it that actually it would end up being meaningful and not confusing for public?
I can answer that in respect of the consultation documents that we've done are as good, bar the last 2% of improvement, they're probably as good as they're going to get. We have plans in place if there is significant overload on the system, because we do anticipate a lot of submissions coming in, and we have considered if there's an awful lot of submissions on one process, how we might deal with that. And we've got backup capacity and backup people in place to support us with that. I think the aspect of is it overload on the community, I think that's a political judgment. That's why elected members are here. And I think that's the judgment that you're grappling with at the moment. And I think from a staff perspective, we entirely appreciate that that's a tricky issue. And I do believe it's the elected members' consideration.
We do have one problem also, 52% of ratepayers don't live permanently in the area, and getting consultation to them is a little bit awkward. So I just raised that.
I think staff are always mindful of that, and I know that there's some active work going on to try and close that gap and reach out. So there is work going on by the staff in that area.
Yeah, speaking as a councillor with 12 ratepayer groups in our ward, and a lot of those are absentee owners, I would confidently say that all of our ratepayer chairs are being contacted. That is part of the process to get all of that pushed out, and also about enrolling and understanding the enrolment process for the elections in October as well. So I have confidence that we've got a process in place.
It's a good point, Deli, and I've seen them actively forwarding on the stuff that's coming from council. It looks really good. So, Donna, sorry, we'll go Donna and then John Morrissey, please. Are you okay with that? Thank you.
Through the chair, just quickly, I'd just also like to point out that's in the comms and engagement plan. We are also anticipating a rating insert that would go out with the next rates notice, which is within a couple of weeks if the decision is to go ahead. And that will go to all ratepayers. We also comms are doing a push. I'm not sure how. It's some technology thing that will push notification out to all people that have visited or been in the district over a period of time. So that's another way of capturing absentee ratepayers. So we are looking at doing, as much as we can to make sure that all ratepayers and residents have the opportunity to provide their feedback.
Thanks, Donna. John Morrissey, please.
I'm actually happy to move that we go with the staff recommendation, which is option 1.
Sorry, John, before you do that, can I circle back to you?
Please do, but I'm sitting here ready to go.
Ready to go. Terry, and then we'll try and nail this down, please.
Yeah, so my concerns really with the amount of people that are communicating with me about the complexity of the Water's Done Well. One drop-in session for sort of 10,000 people in the area is going to be, and during a weekday, is not going to capture really the people who come to town. So I'm a bit concerned about how that's going to work, and how are we going to get to those people who will start ringing up and saying, what the hell's going on? And how can you help me?
And can I just add that as I sit here and I think about the discussion we've got coming up, and as we go through that discussion, the impact of that on our ratepayers, it's almost a shame that we're not having these two discussions in parallel, because I think we will find when we get to the end of the local Water's Done Well discussion that we realise that we have got a massive job in terms of communicating with our communities.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay, so we're going to come back to Councillor Morrissey. Now, in my notes that I've got here, I've basically got 100% agreement from councillors in terms of supporting the rates review. So if we go to page 8, option 3, basically that means, and this is, sorry, where it gets confusing. If we go to page 8, option 3, we're supporting option 2, which is the one above it, plus changes to the rates funding of the solid waste, district transportation and the building control activities, which is the preferred option from staff. Now,
through the chair, can I just clarify, because in the order paper it says proposal 1 and the preferred option is option 3.
Yeah.
On what page, Tim?
Talking option and the wording is proposal 1, option 3.
Yeah.
Donna,
Donna, can you help us, please?
I'll try. So I know it is confusing. So there's 2 proposals. So the paper outlines the 2 proposals. The resolution as it stands is based on the preferred option, but the preferred option being that you'll continue to go out to consultation on this rating review. If you go to page, just let me get there.
Could we share the screen, please? Because this is.
You read my mind.
Yeah. If we go to number item 5 in the document, options and assessments, for mine it's on page 17.
Page
Here we go.
17, which is.
Yeah. So they're the
page
options.
1.
These are the options that you have in front of you today, with option 1 being that you will invite the public to provide feedback on the rates review proposal. That is the staff preferred option. Option 2 is to decide to pause the rates review proposal pending further consideration of options, and then option 3 is just to decide not to continue with the rates review. So those are the 3 options. The other options that you're talking about within the proposals, they are the proposals that are prepared in the proposal document, ready for consultation should you choose option 1 to actually go out and carry on with the rates review.
Right.
Does that make sense, or is that more confusing?
So Donna, would we not be endorsing proposal 1, option 3, before we get to the recommendations, which says option 1, 2, or 3, which is completely different options to the proposals?
So, yeah, I probably haven't explained myself very well.
Don't we have to endorse the preferred option?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is we have a choice there, 1, 2, and 3. And what I'm hearing around the table is there's a preference for 3, because that is the preferred option that came out of the workshops, and that deals with the those other additional rates on as well. So my understanding of what I'm hearing is that the council do prefer option 3. The disagreement is about now or later, and I think whether it's now or later, it's still important that council express a view as to supporting this option here.
So in terms of how this relates to the recommendations that we've got on our agenda packet on page 46, yeah, so we've got an option to receive, we've done that, adopt the rates review proposal document. So in adopting that, we essentially, that is what you've just talked about here. And then we could approve the proposed amended rates remission policy, approve the revenue and financing policy, approve the engagement plan. And then the difference is only in resolution 6, where it's the timing.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you, Robin. That's really helpful. So essentially, if we go to, as Robin has just said, if we go to page 1 or 45, and some of you might not have 45 on yours because mine's hard copy, but essentially it's the recommendations.
Bottom of page 46 in the agenda packet.
Yeah. So it's on mine, it starts on page 45. Is that the same on yours?
Yeah, correct. Sorry, 45.
Okay, so have we already done the Okay, so we're now looking at items 2, 3, 4, and 5, which goes from page 45 over page 46. All right, everyone got that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so
Just,
sure.
sorry, before we take those. I feel like we should be having the conversation around timeframes, because if we are going to push pause, if that is an option, do we want, and it's something that we revisit in the new term after the waters decisions and things like that have made, do we want to have any flexibility left? Or do we want to have it so that they have to work in, the new council would have to work in with this? No, true.
If I can make a suggestion there, it's sometimes useful, and this is something we might want to think about ahead of the election process, where this council, having had 3 years experience under your belt and having tested all the options, actually recommend, and not just specific to this, specific to a number of things, you may wish to recommend to the incoming council to do X, Y, and Z. And that takes the wealth of your experience into a recommendation for the incoming council, which they may or may not accept.
So how would that look, like a report towards the end of our term, which essentially wraps these things up and says, here's a gift?
Potentially, or a resolution that so if we get to the end of this and there's a decision to delay,
Yeah.
it may be, and the council recommends to the incoming council that they pick up option 3 and take it forward.
Right,
Or
so
something
that
to
I'd
that
feel a bit
effect.
more comfortable if we, okay,
Yep.
yes, thank you.
So would a good way forward to be to address your concerns, Councillor Gary Percival, to do recommendations 2, 3, 4, and 5, because we've all agreed on those as a block, then recommendation 6, because that's the timing is the issue there, and then resolution 7. I've proposed that as a way forward.
That works for me. I'm just, so let's deal with 2, 3, 4, and 5 first, and then it's just about 2 things: timing, and secondly, potentially
What?
So page.
Missing between the hard
Yeah.
copy, which is not correct,
Yeah.
and the one we've got on the screen. And it's honestly, I'm confused as hell. And
follow what's on screen.
okay,
God, I can't walk. I was going to show Gary my page, but I forgot I can't walk. Okay, so on mine, it's page 45 on the hard copy. That one there. On the screen, easiest, yeah. So we're looking at 2, 3, 4, and 5. I need a mover and a seconder, please, for 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'm happy to move. I thought
Martin was fast with his hand.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did, and I forgot that. So I'm going to go Councillor Morrissey to move it, Councillor Rodley to second it. Happy with that? I'm going to put those, all those in favour?
Aye.
Show of hands, please. You need me? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Gary abstaining. Thank you. Would you like that recorded, Gary? Yep. Okay.
And can I just note that the number 6 is not right next to the
It's not
beginning?
binded, it's in the middle of the thing, yeah. It's a line. Misaligned. Okay, as far as 6 is concerned, if we can come back to Aileen's suggestion about a recommendation to the next council, could we get some help with wording of that, or is that premature?
Yeah, I think you need to take the vote on the do it now or delay option.
Okay.
And
Oh, yep.
Okay, can we bring that up again, please, so that we're all on the same page?
We're just switching it up, but yeah, it seems to.
Switching up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, could I just interrupt? Sorry, while we're looking at these resolutions, I've just noticed that resolution 7, somehow has been cut off. That's not the correct resolution. That was to make minor editorial amendments to all those documents. I don't know what's happened. It must have been when we uploaded it into Resolve, something's happened.
Minor amendments to the rates.
Yeah, it's not a good, that is not a good resolution.
No, I think that's in breach of the LGA.
So it's minor editorial amendments to the rates review proposal document.
Consultation document?
No, it's not a consultation document.
Proposal document.
The rates remission policy 2021.
Can I suggest we have morning tea? We give staff
That's
the
a good
opportunity
idea.
to get this. No, I'm just really concerned. Let's get this right. We have morning tea and then we come back and we finish this vote. Because I'm really sorry. This paper has made me. I'm just jumping all around with the proposals and the options and the 1, 2, 3s, and I just want to make sure we get this right. So if that resolution 7 is not right, do we need some time?
I believe it. Sorry, I believe it was just probably cut off with loading the document up into our system for putting it on this agenda. There was some issue why that last bit was cut off.
We're nearly there.
And we need another comma there because it's also the communications and engagement plan.
Could I move that we adjourn as per Rika's recommendation?
The only problem that I have with that is that if we then adjourn and say, staff, we're going to have a cup of tea, you guys work through, I'm not comfortable with them not getting a break.
Yeah. I would endorse we continue while it's all very fresh in our mind as well. Have a cup of tea afterwards.
We've got item 6. We can do that, can't we? That's there. All right. So where does it leave us with options for timing? But we can get the draft done before he gets back.
She's happy with wording for 7 now.
Okay. Don, are you happy with the wording for 7?
Yes, that looks fine.
All right. So when Gary gets back, we can do 7. Well, we can do that now. It's just authorizing the chief executive to make minor amendments. So I'll move item 7, delegates authority chief executive. Can I get a seconder, please? Martin, all those in favour? This is just 7. Thank you. Any against? Okay. And we'll wait till Gary gets back. But how do we want to word item 6 in terms of a delay for that?
Well, as the mover of that motion, I would like to test it the way it is, because we have thoroughly discussed the idea of delaying. We've been told by a senior staff member that there are significant risks in adding any sort of delay. I think all of us can agree that we don't want a shortened period. So I've moved it in the expectation that we will test it amongst the council.
Absolutely. So we'll wait for Gary, which he won't be long.
Do I need to put this on the gift register?
Yeah. What's it passing around? I'm not sure.
Scorched down.
Not scorched. All right, team. So, Gary, just to bring you up to speed, we've got item 6, which is, we're going to test the wording of that as it is. Robin's proposed it, Delhi seconded it. So we'll put that to the vote. Has everyone had a chance to read through it? Give Gary a second.
And while Gary was out of the room, we did do number 7.
We did number 7. Thank you. So it's only this one remaining. All right. You happy with that? We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And I'll support it. And those, you got that? Okay. You got those against? Got 1, 2, 3, 4. Who are we missing? No? Okay.
I didn't see a hand up for you.
He's thinking. You're thinking, aren't you? Put your mic on, please, John, if you don't mind.
I will vote in favour.
Thank you. All right, that's carried. Thank you, team, and thank you for the way that you worked through this. I really appreciate it. Good work. Good work, and thank you to the staff. This is a tough one. Jonathan, appreciate your time and your input. And hopefully will be a smooth process and we won't get any upsets along the way.
Good luck, and I hope so too. I don't see why not.
Thanks, Donna. Look after yourself.
Thank you.
Right. For those online, we'll have a cup of tea and we will be back at 11:15. Thank you.